Hey guys, what's up? This is Insanity. Got a gameplay of World War II on PC. Naturally, with Black Panther having came out, this was the next ideal time to commentate before I launch into a barrage of gameplay uploads with no commentary. Let's just get this out of the way first. Black Panther is overrated. Now, the word overrated normally comes with a negative connotation, but in my case, I gave Black Panther an 8 out of 10. It's a good movie, but there are numerous reviews that in essence deem Black Panther a 9 or 10 out of 10 sort of movie, so that's why I think it's overrated. But that doesn't mean Black Panther is a bad movie, it's just that its praise is rather overblown. Part of my somewhat less than enthused reception is my fault, as I spoiled myself silly with reading numerous reviews and seeing various clips of the movie beforehand. That made the movie have somewhat less of a punch when I already have exposed myself to its secrets. The other thing that really had more to do with the theater than the movie itself is that there are numerous in the dark scenes where you can't see a damn thing. I have no idea who's the genius that organized the theater screens this way, but when even a brightly lit and colorful scene like the South Korea car chase has this layer of darkness over it, I think that theaters really ought to make sure that any movie that has nighttime or darkly lit scenes doesn't get some random filter to make those parts of the movie unwatchable. I really need to rewatch Black Panther later on at some point to give a more final impression, but overall, I'd say that I liked the movie. The negatives: the CGI really needed some work. It's probably understandable that they're pulling all the stops for Infinity War because there's no way in hell that CGI isn't going to be abused left and right for that movie. But anytime I saw the Black Panther suit in action, be it from the hero or the villain, the movements are really erratic. It's occasionally smooth, but then gets jerky, and then given that a lot of Wakanda's environments are depicted with green screens and CGI, there's no solid contrast with the Black Panther model on screen, so it becomes as if you were watching a video game. Civil War's take on Black Panther also had him in CGI, but at least most of the movements were smooth and had real, on-location backdrops to contrast the CGI model, and the only time it was jarring was during the airport fight. My second negative is that Killmonger is a good villain, but once he suits up in the Black Panther garb during the final battle, I felt like a lot of his character was stripped away from him in order to make him final boss material. I really wish they didn't put him in a suit because Michael B. Jordan does a fantastic job of being menacing and ruthless. He personally took a lot of cues from Magneto in the X-Men movies, and his Killmonger definitely felt like a Magneto type character. Once he was in a suit, it just didn't feel the same. Thankfully, the resolution to a final battle was absolutely wonderful, and at least made up for turning Michael B. Jordan into a special effect. My third negative is that it's a shame that the villains are killed off. Annie Serkis was a blast to watch, and could have remained a potential future threat for T'Challa, while Michael B. Jordan served a story purpose and ultimately could not be anything more than someone to punch out if he were to continue to live. M'Baku is known as Man-Ape in the comics, and his character was designed to be a subversion of the character from the comics, so in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's no way he'd ever be a villain. This movie used 3 of Black Panther's biggest villains from the comics, so you really gotta wonder how future Black Panther movies are going to handle conflicts on the villain side of things. Those are my 3 negatives of the movie, and if I were to throw in a 4th, it's really more of a personal thing outside of the movie. And that part of it has to do with its glowing assessment, which I feel has to do with the movie's genetic makeup, having a nearly black cast helmed by a black director. It's similar to how I felt about Wonder Woman's recognition being primarily due to having a female superhero with a female director behind it. That movie is good, but as an origin story movie, that means that the movie is merely good. It's not really a 9 out of 10 type movie. In regards to Black Panther, I feel like there's a lot more to it that prevents me from merely thinking of it as a Wonder Woman type movie. For one thing, the supporting cast is much stronger, and it's funny that despite Wonder Woman being female empowerment, the women in Black Panther have far bigger and more important roles to play. In Wonder Woman, once Diana leaves her home place, there are only 2 significant female characters outside of her. One is the comic relief sidekick to Wonder Woman, and the other is one of the villains. It's dictated by a story that the Amazons refuse to leave with Diana on the grounds that humanity does not deserve help, and it's part of Diana's character arc to learn that humanity is far more complex than she initially believed. Plus, the World War I period means that ultimately there wouldn't be much in the way of significant females playing important roles in a war, so I can understand that. Nevertheless, there are several significant female characters in Black Panther. They're present throughout the entire story, and they have their own motivations and goals. The third act, which is usually loud and noisy, is resolved in a very satisfactory way. That's another part I liked about the movie. While violence is still a heavy part leading to the conclusion, the most important theme of the climax was the idea of opening dialogue and moving forward in a more peaceful way. It could have easily gone with killing off the traitors to Wakanda within their borders, but ultimately they chose to have him surrender peacefully. T'Challa could have easily gone and killed his cousin, but he chooses to take him to see the Wakanda sunset and offers to heal him, despite having been brutalized by Eric in their previous confrontation, as he understands what Eric has gone through when it was something T'Challa had also went through in Civil War. Speaking of T'Challa, one thing I noticed from the numerous reviews is that a common complaint was that T'Challa was either boring or outshined by the other characters in the movie. I really could not see that at all. Black Panther the movie is really more accurately a Wakanda movie. It's as much about Wakanda as it is T'Challa himself, so I can understand why the reviewers would feel like the main lead was overshadowed. There are some scene stealers, but contrary to reviews, I don't think there was one single character who really stole a show from T'Challa. There's a lot of love for T'Challa's sister, Shuri, for instance, but my favorite character after T'Challa was M'Baku, and he had just enough screen time to give a good impression, and he used it pretty well. He didn't have a lot of it, but I don't think that, despite me believing that he was a scene stealer, I don't think he walked away with the movie, just like I don't think most of the other characters that the reviews claim have stolen the movie have walked away with the movie. If you want an example of a show stealer, I'd say Hulk in Ragnarok is a pretty good example. Where T'Challa is concerned, I thought T'Challa the character was great. His whole character arc in Black Panther was not just about learning how to become an effective king, but knowing what the future of Wakanda should be now that he is the one who is the king. He struggles with his role but becomes more confident and eventually realizes the things he really needs to do. It was smart that his ex, Nakia, and his cousin Eric were both framed with similar motivations but different ideas of how to achieve it, with T'Challa taking inspiration from both. I'm glad that he didn't do Wakandan outreach just because that's what his ex is planning on doing. It's something that Eric was also thinking about in regards to the bigger picture, being able to extend his hand to the oppressed minority outside who are like him. The stronger dramatic elements of Black Panther is why I don't think of it as a Wonder Woman movie. It's a movie that goes beyond being a movie with a black cast directed by a black director, whereas in the case of Wonder Woman, that remains a female superhero directed by a female director, and it features a decently executed origin story, but nothing more. Other things I liked about the movie was that it really helped emphasize Wakanda as a setting, featuring its own culture and customs, the various different tribes, its own technological developments, and music. There is quite a bit of world building in the movie, but I think that they were able to do it well without having to constantly spout exposition or have point of view characters. The movie had a pretty lofty task of having to depict and introduce to viewers a fictional African-based country for the first time, on top of delivering a story with strong thematic elements, and I think that they were very successful for the most part. All the cast really brought their A game to the movie. I was actually worried about Michael B. Jordan because some of the dialogue in the trailers and clips I've seen coming from him was somewhat stiffly delivered, or at least that's how I saw it initially. Thankfully, the actual movie was different. Where Black Panther stands on my MCU scale, I will have to wait for a second viewing to see, but an 8 out of 10 surely puts it high on my list. Winter Soldier is still my favorite at the moment. That's a gameplay and commentary. Hope you enjoyed it, and Insanity is out.
Adios, amigo. Rest in peace.